Welcome, everyone, and happy Elder Scrolls Month. That's right, for this entire month, we'll be making content related to this beloved franchise. From fan-suggested challenges, to videos covering the franchise's Easter eggs and more. We'll be doing them all for the entirety of the month of May. So leave your suggestions in the comments. Who knows, your idea might be the next video. However, with that being said, let's dive right in and uncover the Easter eggs that lie hidden across the island of Vvardenfell, in the heart of the province of Morrowind. For our first Easter egg, we'll head southwest of Ebonheart until we reach a small patch of land jutting out from the ocean. If you have Tarhiel rebuilt installed, you'll also see the city of Endothryn, not far from the island in question. Hidden underwater, on the southern side of the island, is a door. This is the entrance to the Mudan Grotto. Let's head inside. Upon entering this flooded cave system, we'll be forced to hold our breath as we swim through its winding passages until we reach yet another door. But this is no ordinary door. This is the entrance to the Lost Dwemer checkpoint. After heading inside, we'll want to go straight down this hallway until we reach an intersection. From here, we'll head west down this passageway and follow it until we reach a ladder. And it's here that we'll finally find what we were looking for. The corpse of an adventurer. Who is he? Why was he here? He apparently left a note. So let's give it a read, shall we? The final words of a dead man being found near his corpse is so very cliché. I never thought I would be in the position of writing one of them, but the opportunity has arisen, and it seemed the thing to do. The story of my death is very comical indeed. If anyone shall ever find me, I hope I am able to bring them to laughter, for as I lay here dying, I laugh myself. My last breath shall be the exhale of a laugh. My journey across Vivek brought me to this well-camouflaged cavern. Filled with seawater and dangers, the temptation of adventure and riches lured me inside. Happening across this lost Dwemer dwelling was a surprise indeed. I was able to get this far. I climbed into this tower after my confrontation with a Dwemer centurion. The plan was to heal my wounds and continue forth. With excitement and greed overwhelming me, I mistook my bottle of poison for the healing elixir. Now I lie dying. I drank down the contents of my healing potion, but that did not nullify the effects of the poison. I fear my innards are slowly liquefying. I shall be dead within the day, laughing about my recent lack of luck. I have with me the key to a lock I have yet to find. I found the key just inside the main entrance. Perhaps it is the key to the Dwemer riches, for I will never know. If one shall happen across my note, congratulations on making it thus far, and do not drink the rest of the bottle here. It tastes like guar bile, but is 10 times deadlier. Peke Achu. Pikachu. This is the corpse of Pikachu. One of many Pokemon references in Morrowind. And on the floor, not mere inches from his body, is the vial of poison in question, its contents spilt onto the floor of this Dwemer tower. Now, if we were to collect the poison, we would notice that it has only negative effects. It is a one-of-a-kind, unique alchemical ingredient that can only be found here, and there is only one copy of it in the game. But this is not what we're here for. So let's move on to the next Easter egg. Did you know that Morrowind has a reference to the book 1984, written by George Orwell? The government building in 1984 is called the Ministry of Truth. Likewise, the facility that dwells within Bardal, the meteor which floats above the city of Vivek, shares this name, and is in fact an homage to George Orwell's classic novel. 1984 is, in actuality, referenced several times throughout Morrowind, but this is the most prominent case. Hidden away in the Azura's coast region, west of Telarum, south of Telmora, and east of the Dunmer stronghold Fallen Serrano, is the corpse of Arlowe. His killers are a pair of Mabrigoshes, or Ashlander witches, who are still lurking nearby rather placidly for whatever reason. Upon examining his corpse, we'll find a unique weapon known as the Banhammer. This is a reference to the Something Awful forums, specifically the site's creator, Richard Lotax Kianka, and his tendency to use his Banhammer to ban trolls. On the forums, he was sometimes referred to by the name Arlowe, which is a homophone of the name Arlowe. But why did these witches kill him? We'll never know for sure, but let's get out of here before they make us their next victims. Sun Tzu's Art of War is the earliest surviving treatise on warfare, and has its own reference in Morrowind, with the in-game book, The Art of War and Magic. The in-game book even shares some very similar entries when compared side to side with Sun Tzu's Art of War. For instance, compare this entry from the Art of War and Magic. Victory in battle is only the least kind of victory. Victory without battle is the acme of skill. To this entry from Sun Tzu's Art of War, hence to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. You can see how the game developers clearly took some inspiration from this historic text. Up next, we have a series of in-game tributes. In the Ravel Ancestral Tomb, located east of Mount Cand, northeast of Molag Mar, and south of Sadrith Mora, we can find the ashes of G. Lingus. In the Samaris Ancestral Tomb, located northwest of Seydanine, west of Pelagiad, and south of Balmora in the Bitter Coast region of Vvardenfell, we'll find the ashes of Lord Bryn. And finally, in the Fallis Ancestral Tomb, located southeast of Nissus, north of the Dunmer stronghold, Barandis, and northeast of Koal Cave in the West Gash region, we'll find the ashes of D. Bryant. These three are the usernames of regulars on Bethesda's official forums who passed away during Morrowind's development. Bethesda placed their ashes into these urns as a tribute to these users, ultimately immortalizing their memory in a franchise they loved during life. Did you know that the names of the Ashlanders, Kwama egg mines, and Daedric shrines were modeled on ancient Assyrian and Babylonian names from the 3rd to the 1st millennium BCE? This is one of the more hidden Easter eggs, as it's a very subtle joke on the resemblance between the word Ashlander and the name of the capital of the Assyrian Empire, Ashur. Though most of the names are just loosely inspired, several of them contain real-life components. For instance, Ahe, as seen in the names of in-game locations such as the Asha Ahe egg mine, the Ashlands Cavern, Dun Ahe, the Smuggler's Cave, Tin Ahe, the Arabanin Sun tribe's champion Ashu Ahe, and so on, is a component of the names of a line of real Assyrian and Babylonian kings, namely Ashur-nadin Ahe and Marduk-nadin Ahe. The Foyada Ashur-dan, the Zanab tribe's traitor Ashur-dan, and the Smuggler's Cave Ashir-dan are likewise named after 3 historic Assyrian kings, all called Ashur-dan. Meanwhile, the suffix of Ipal, found in the names of the Daedric shrines of Asur-dir Ipal and Zergonipal, is modeled after the name of the historic Assyrian king Ashurbanipal. The prefix of Ashur and Asur, as seen in the names of the Daedric shrines of Ashur-nabibi, Asur-dir Apal, and Asur-nabatashpi, is modeled on the Akkadian name for the Assyrian Empire and its capital, which was often pronounced as Ashur or Asur. On the other hand, the previously mentioned Ashlander tribe, the Arabanimsun tribe, has a name modeled on the root Eriba, which was seen in some Assyrian and Babylonian names, such as Eriba Marduk and Sin Ahe Eriba. The suffixes of Namu and Numu, seen in the names of the caverns of Namu, Manamu, and Punamu, as well as the name of the Ashlander wise woman Sinamu Merpal and the Ashlander scout Zanumu, are modeled after the name of a Babylonian king called Namu. Finally, the one real giveaway is in the name of the in-game location Sargon Cave. The name Sargon is the anglicized version of the name of the historic founder of the Akkadian Empire, Sarugi, otherwise known as Sargon of Akkad or Sargon the Great. For our next Easter egg, we'll head to the tiny seaside village of Narmak. Located west of Caldera, southwest of Aldrun, south of the Dunmer stronghold of Andesreth, and northwest of the Dunmer stronghold of Hlormarin in the Bitter Coast region. Here, on a small island to the southwest of the town, we'll find an abandoned shack, and within, we'll find the in-game text known as No's Picture Book of Wood. If we open it up and read the book, we'll notice that it mentions the phrase Boat-ack being scrawled in a vandalistic manner around the margins of the last page. This is a reference to real-life musician Kurt Cobain, who allegedly, in his teen years, enraged a neighbor by vandalizing their boat with these same words. Nearby the book, tucked under the hammock, is a lute, the nearest equivalent of a guitar in the Elder Scrolls. Since Kurt Cobain was a guitarist, the presence of a lute nearby this book is only further proof of this being a reference. And finally, for the last musical reference, we have Creeper, the Scamp merchant located on the second floor of the Gorak Manor in Caldera. Creeper is actually based on a friend of Mark Nelson, otherwise known as Blue Dev, who was an unemployed drummer at the time of Morrowind's development. If you talk to him enough, eventually he'll say the line, "Don't want to work, just want to bang on my drum," which is a reference to the song Bang the Drum All Day by Todd Rundgren. Up next, we have a LucasArts reference. Hidden away on top of a shelf in Jobasha's rare books, located in the wasteworks of the Foreign Quarter in the city of Vivec, is Charles the Plant. Charles here is a reference to the games Day of the Tentacle and Maniac Mansion by LucasArts, which included a plant named Chuck the Plant. If we examine Charles further, we'll realize he holds the unique alchemical ingredient Meteor Slime. Much like with the ingredient we found near the corpse of Pikachu, there is only one copy of this in the game. However, Charles the Plant is marked as owned by Jobasha, so don't let anyone see you take it, or you might be in trouble with the law. Did you know that there's a poetry reference hidden away in the dialogue of the Dreamers of the Sixth House cult? Now, under normal circumstances, you can't talk to them. But if you use a comm spell on them or approach undetected, you can open dialogue. And upon opening dialogue with them, they'll occasionally greet you with,
"We have you in our discerning eye. We see you, waking and sleeping."
This opens up the topic of Discerning Eye, and if you ask them about it, they'll say this:
"My starkest madness seeming is divinest sense. Come, grasp the chain and prove you're sane."
This is a reference and nearly direct quote from Emily Dickinson's poem, "Much Madness is Divinest Sense." This is admittedly one of the harder Easter eggs to uncover, as it's expertly hidden in a place you'd never think to look. Let's be honest, you usually just kill these dreamers, as they're instantly hostile to you once detected. And without intentionally using a comm spell or stealth, dialogue with them is frankly impossible. In keeping with the Sixth House theme, we have this Easter egg, namely the Dagoth home decorators. Have you ever noticed how all the chairs are stacked on top of each other, with odd symbols surrounding them in all House Dagoth bases? Who's doing it, and why? What purpose does it serve? Well, to answer that, we need to talk to the Ash Slaves. But how? They're always hostile towards the player, much like Dreamers. Well, just like with the Dreamers, we need to either approach them undetected or use a comm spell so that we can sit down and have a chat. And what do they have to contribute? Well, when we talk to them, the first thing they'll say is this:
"The chairs, the tables, all confused. We hear the words and must speak them. We take them and arrange them, but still they will not be quiet.
However, if we press further and talk to them again, they'll instead say,
Everything is wrong. This is not straight. This is too high. This is in my way. We must put them right.
It would appear they have an almost OCD-like compulsion to stack the furniture in this manner. Clearly, they're not all there in the head, having been driven mad by the dreamlike vision sent out by Dagoth Earl. But let's move on. This place is rather unnerving. Now that we're back outside in broad daylight, who's up for some grave robbing? I kid. We are going to a burial cavern, though. Specifically, the Ursulaku burial caverns. The Ursulaku are a tribe of Ashlanders and are the first tribe that we're introduced to in the course of Morrowind's main story quest. Surely their deceased ancestors won't mind if we take a look around, right? Well, judging by the hostile skeletons, I'd say they mind a lot. But why are we here, I hear you ask? Well, hidden away in the Ursulaku burial caverns is a reference to the hit RPG franchise Final Fantasy, created by Squareco Limited in 1987. This was before they merged with the Enix Corporation in 2003, becoming Square Enix. However, I digress. You didn't come here for a history lesson. You came here for the Easter eggs. And to find this one, we need to head deeper in, until we reach the Kefka Burial Chamber. The name of this chamber is a reference to Kefka Palazzo. Kefka was the antagonist of Final Fantasy VI, which was released in 1994 on April 4th. While we're here in the Ursulaku burial caverns, however, we have the opportunity to uncover yet another Pokemon Easter egg. Upon departing the Kefka burial chamber, we'll exit out back into a large chamber with a towering monolithic rock formation jutting out from a body of water. Along its walls is a spiraling pathway of natural rock and carved steps leading upwards. As we ascend further up the pathway, we'll pass by the entrances to other chambers in the burial cavern. And upon ascending to the third floor, up the side of this precarious formation, we'll finally find the one we're looking for. This is the Kakuna burial chamber. Note how this chamber requires the use of levitation merely to move around and have access to all the areas within the chamber. It's almost as if it was designed for something hanging from the ceiling by a thread. Something like the Pokemon Kakuna, who is often depicted dangling from a thread of silk off the treetops in dense forests. Hidden away in the Azura's coast region, inside the Daedric Shrine of Daedroth, located north of Voss, southeast of Vvardenfell, and northeast of the Dunmer stronghold Rotherham, is yet another Easter egg. To find it, however, we'll have to venture fairly deep into these ruins, until we reach the antechamber. Here, in the northernmost room of the antechamber, we'll come across Ra Gruzgob and Hlireni in Davel, a pair of Sheogorath worshippers, as well as the Scamp known as Lustedreich. But this is not what we're here for. What we're here for lies hidden under a pillow on Ra Gruzgob's bedroll, and if we slip him some moon sugar, he'll even tell us that he hid something there. Now, if we investigate this claim, we'll find the unique item known as Gambolpuddy. It's quite a strange name for an item, to be certain. However, the name of this item is thought to be a reference to the fictional composer Johann Gambolpuddy from a sketch in Monty Python's Flying Circus. Looking more closely at it, it does have some pretty nice effects. Sadly, you don't get to keep it if you're doing the quest for the Tribunal Temple, Sheogorath of the House of Troubles, as it's consumed when you offer it to the shrine to renew the pact with this greater Daedra. On a small island located west of Daedroth, southeast of Vvardenfell, and northeast of the Dunmer stronghold Rossarin, is the ancient shipwreck. This in itself is not an Easter egg, but there is one hidden here. If we venture into the interior of the ship, lying on the floor of the upper level, we'll find the in-game text, Capn's Guide to the Fishy Stick. If we try to read the book, we'll note that it's, supposedly, the definitive reference to fishy sticks throughout Tamriel. However, due to the amount of quote-unquote fishy stick sauce smeared upon the pages, the text is completely unreadable. So what is a fishy stick? Well, this is a reference to an interesting tradition started by the user Captain Eldrad on the official Bethesda forums, in which fishy sticks were given to new members. Though sadly this tradition is no longer practiced on the Bethesda forums to my knowledge, it has, however, been continued by users on the Nexus forums, where a senior member bestows a fishy stick to new members. But let's get out of this dilapidated wreck. There are more Easter eggs to uncover, and we won't find them by staying here. In fact, there's another very close by. Just north of the ancient shipwreck, on a small patch of land, is Maik the Liar. Now, you may have heard of him before. He has, after all, become a running gag character since his introduction to the franchise in Morrowind. Despite the gag he's become, Maik was originally created as a way for the developers to talk with the players. That's why, amongst his dialogue, are the topics of things like multiplayer, becoming a lich, dragons, horses, climbing, weresharks, nudity, emperor crabs, and so on. All of these are references to features that existed in previous games, features that were not implemented, or creatures that aren't in the game and players might ask about. There are, however, two topics that he has that reference other Easter eggs. The first of which, the Mudcrab Merchant, is located southwest of Molag Mar, south of the Dunmer stronghold Telicero, and east of the Daedric shrine, Ald Sofa. This Mudcrab is a secret merchant, much like Creeper, and has the highest amount of starting gold in the base game. The second Easter egg, which Maik references in his dialogue, is the Shrine of Boethiah. If we ask him about it, he'll say,
"You seek the shrine that is no longer there. An interesting concept. Look to the seas to the west. There lies what was once the shrine. Take a deep breath and begin your search."
So, we'll head to the western coast of Vvardenfell, head out into the deeper waters of the open ocean, and dive down into the depths. As it turns out, Maik wasn't lying. there is indeed a shrine here, located just northwest of the Daedric shrine Ashur-Nibibi, southwest of the Dunmer stronghold Chlormari, and south of the Daedric shrine Ashal-Mimil Kala. If we approach it, we'll have the option to interact with it, and upon doing so, Boethiah, the Daedric Prince of Plots, speaks to us and says,
"What do you want with me, mortal? My shrine is in ruins. My priests have forgotten me. Will you rebuild my shrine, mortal? Restore it in all its glory. Accomplish this, and I will reward you. You will be the bearer of Goldbrand, my sword of legend. There is one who can help you do this for me. Listen. Rough hands to smooth stone, carving rock instead of bone. In Caldera, an artist waits, his masterpiece to create. Find the one who may shape the rock. Go!
Following his advice, we'll head to Caldera, to the Gorak Manor, and on the third floor we'll find the orc, Duma Grolok. If we speak to him about rebuilding the shrine, he'll request 2,000 gold and a copy of a book on the shrine before he begins his work. The gold is the easy part. The book is a rare one. So we'll head to Vivek, back to our good friend Jobasha's bookshop, and buy a copy of Boethiah's Glory from him. With the book in hand, we return to Duma Grolog and fork over the gold and the book. After 21 in-game days have passed, the work will be complete, and upon interacting with the new shrine, Boethiah will reward us with the unique weapon, Goldbrand, as promised.
You have done well. This shrine is a worthy one, and my power will again be felt. Take this, mortal. Wield Goldbrand with a strong hand, and let all know that my shrine has risen.
Now, while it might appear that we're finished here, we're nowhere close to done yet. Next, we need to contract vampirism from one of the 3 vampire clans in Vvardenfell. After contracting the disease, we need to wait 3 days for it to take full effect. So, while we can still make use of transportation services, we'll quickly head to the Mages Guild Hall in Vivek. Once there, we'll wait out the time for the disease to run its course, and just like that, we're a vampire. Now, vampirism in Morrowind is likely both the most powerful and punishing variation of the disease in the Elder Scrolls franchise. While you do gain significant boosts to your stats and skills, you're effectively persona non grata. You can't use fast travel services like the guild guides in the Mages Guild, the Silt Striders, or the boats, and no one, with the exception of a few NPCs, will talk to you. This also means that you can't use vendors or merchants for their various services, such as bartering, enchanting, repairing, and so on. So why did we do this? Well, it turns out that there's an Easter egg related to the sword Goldbrand that requires us to be a vampire to access. First, we'll talk to Cyril in the Mages Guild Hall in Vivek, and she'll have a job for us. She wants us to acquire a certain key held by the NPC Shashev in Aldrin. This will require quite a journey, but it can be made shorter through the use of the Divine Intervention and Civi Intervention spells. After we've arrived in Aldrin, we'll find Shashev inside the Aldscar Inn, and naturally, with us being a vampire, he isn't too fond of us. In fact, he flat out attacks us, so we're forced to kill him. After looting his corpse of the key, we'll need to make the long trek back to Vivek. At least we would normally. However, I sought ahead and left a mark at Cirilanwe's location so we can just teleport back with the recall spell. It's at this point you must be certain to have exactly 11,171 gold in your inventory. You can't have even one piece of gold more or less, otherwise this won't work. When we talk to Cirilanwe and hand over the key, we'll be greeted with the text, "Go to hell, Carolina." Goldbrand will be removed from our inventory, and in its place, we acquire Eltonbrand. First things first. The name of the sword, Eltonbrand, is a reference to the American basketball player Eltonbrand, who played for the Duke University's basketball team, the Blue Devils, during college. This Easter egg was created and implemented by Duke University alumnus Mark Nelson, who goes by the handle of BlueDev on Twitter. The phrase, "Go to hell, Carolina," when you obtain Eltonbrand, is a reference to the Blue Devils' arch-rival, the Carolina Tar Heels. As for the specific amount of gold required to obtain Eltonbrand, it's thought to be either a reference to Mark Nelson's birthday, November 1st, 1971, which written out numerically is 11-1-71, or a reference to a 111-71 victory of the Blue Devils over the Tar Heels. This victory, however, is a misattribution of a 111-71 victory of the Duke Blue Devils over the West Virginia Mountaineers in 1963. As for the name of the NPC who had the key, Shashev, this is a reference to the longtime coach of the Blue Devils, Mike Krzyzewski. Speaking of the Tar Heels, however, there is one more reference to them in the game. If we head north of Seydanine, we'll eventually hear a loud scream, and a Bosmer, otherwise known as a Wood Elf, will fall from the sky and die upon hitting the ground. This is the NPC Tarhiel, and his name is a reference once again to the Carolina Tar Heels. But this is not the only Easter egg here. If we inspect his corpse, we'll find the unique magic items, the Scrolls of Icarian Flight. This is an obvious reference to Icarus, a character from Greek mythology who wanted to escape from Crete using wings created by his father out of feathers and wax. Icarus flew too close to the sun, which melted the wax, causing him to plunge to his death, much like Tarhiel did. In fact, Tarhiel's predicament has become a running gag that has made other appearances in games from the Elder Scrolls franchise. Did you know that the name of the leader of the Thieves Guild in Morrowind, Gentleman Jim Stacey, is a reference to a comic book character? Children's author Raymond Briggs wrote a comic by the name of Gentleman Jim, in which the main character, known as Jim, becomes a highwayman to steal from the rich and give to the poor. The fact that Gentleman Jim Stacey attempts to resurrect the Baal Molag Mur, a group of thieves who are known to steal from the unjust, and give to those in need is only further evidence that this is indeed a reference. Up next, we have a pair of references related to the Morrowind developer Gary Noonan, who was known by the name WormGod at the time. First on the list is the WormGod's friends. In the antechamber of Daedric is a pair of characters, added by Gary Noonan to represent himself and his girlfriend of the time, by the names of GT and Car Alber. However, there is a third friend hidden away in the Senum ancestral tomb. This is Pop G. For a time, it was thought to be a tribute to some unknown member of the Elder Scrolls community who died during Morrowind's development. However, Gary Noonan would eventually put these rumors to rest by confirming that this was a tribute to his late father, who passed away during Morrowind's development. Now, if you've done any delving to Dwemer ruins, you might have noticed a repeating pattern of symbols carved into the pipes. This is the Easter egg known as the WormGod's pipes. The strange writing is a form of Dwemer script, known as WormGod script, and the writing translates to the name WormGod, which repeats over and over again. Gary Noonan essentially plastered his name across all the Dwemer ruins, leaving his mark throughout Vvardenfell. On the topic of the Dwemer, did you know that there's a reference to the famous drawing The Vitruvian Man hidden away in the Dwemer's texts? Well, if you open up the book, The Egg of Time, you'll find a Vitruvian Dwarf. Seems the Dwemer were fond of Da Vinci, as they should be. But let's get out of these dusty old ruins. We've got more Easter eggs to uncover still, after all. Hidden away in Vivek's Telvanni Canton, in the Lizard's Head Bar, is the Head of Scourge. This is a reference to developer Steve Meister's test character, Scourge, who eventually got in trouble with the law and died. Mr. Meister decided that Scourge should be enshrined here, in the place that he died, and so his head, mounted on a wooden plaque, is hidden away in the back room of this Telvanni bar. In the O'Mallin ancestral tomb, located north of the Dunmer stronghold Coggery, southeast of the Dunmer stronghold Valenvarian, and northeast of the Dunmer stronghold Phalismaria, is yet another Easter egg. To find it, we must venture all the way through the tomb until we reach the final chamber. Here, we'll find the corpse of an adventurer, pinned under a huge boulder. If we read the note he left behind, it'll become clear that this is a reference to Indiana Jones. For one thing, it's signed Indy, and it also mentions a father who made jokes about his childhood pet. This is a reference to the line from the third Indiana Jones movie, The Last Crusade, in which Indy's father remarks, upon hearing his name, "We named the dog Indiana."
That's his name. Henry Jones Jr.
Like Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana.
In the House Redoran town of Morrowind, located east of the Daedric shrine Malkashishi, southwest of the Dunmer strongholds of Phalismarian and Kogarin, and northwest of Aldrun. In the Andis Trade House is a character by the name of Miles Gloriosus. This name is a reference to the character Pyrgo Polynices, which loosely translates to boasts about many victories. Pyrgo Polynices is the Miles Gloriosus, or boastful soldier, of the eponymously named play, Miles Gloriosus, written by Roman comic Plautus. On the topic of plays and literature, we have yet another Easter egg. This is the Nagasta Cavata Cavacus, the only instance of a book in the Elder Scrolls franchise written by a Slode. Specifically, the infamous necromancer of Stros Makai, Nagasta. Looking at the text, it appears to be a jumbled mess. However, this is merely an encrypted version of the international auxiliary language Esperanto, and the key to deciphering it is as follows. All instances of AHK are replaced with E. All instances of OIX are replaced with AUX. All instances of SO are replaced with LA. All instances of AUW are replaced with OJ. All instances of JHE are replaced with SI. And upon doing this, we're left with a text in perfectly translatable Esperanto. And upon translating it from Esperanto to English, we're left with this. Hava Kavak is the newsletter of the La Ranatage. It is sent to paying members and other individuals who, in some way, are involved in La Ranatage's activities. In it, there firstly is information about the locations of the monthly meetings, but of course also concerning the latest activities of the club. Sometimes it also includes other educating or entertaining material. The internet-based Kavako are, on the one hand, another distribution channel for the contents of the paper version. But on the other hand, not surprisingly, the contents of the different versions cannot, and even must not, always be 100% the same. For instance, in little circulating paper versions, you can publish illustrations that, for copyright reasons, cannot be used on the internet. Yet, on the other hand, the low costs of the internet version lift the space limits and allow more content, not to mention being always up to date. These circumstances influence the web-based Kavako, which will also serve as the general homepage of the La Ranatage. This is an obvious Easter egg left by the developers, as it clearly references things such as the internet and emails. As for who is behind the creation of this Easter egg, it is currently unknown, but if you happen to know who it was, leave a comment down below. Hidden away in the 6-house base of Hasur, located south of Balmora, southwest of Fort Moonmoth, and northwest of Pelagiad in the Foyada Mamiya, is a reference to MMORPGs. Heading deeper in, to the lower level, we'll find an object known as the Fat Lute. This is a reference to the term Fat Loot from MMORPGs that is used to describe extremely good loot. Another Fat Lute can be found in the possession of a bandit inside the cave of Adanumeron, and another is carried by the Nord bard Basmar Boldlute in the Sursk Mead Hall on the island of Solstheim. And finally, for our last Easter egg, we'll head to the Gravelands region of Vvardenfell, and west of the Norano Ancestral Tomb. This is the huge creature's spawn point. Here, creatures will randomly spawn at 2 times their normal scale. For example, look at the size of this ogre. Normally, they're only a little bit taller than the player, But this one is absolutely colossal. I'd swear it could eat me whole. But who made this Easter egg? And why? The world may never know. And with that, we're all out of time for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more exciting content. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a happy Elder Scrolls month. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.